always the same principles for back control until we start talking more about body triangles and single leg back control, which is hopefully is going to come up next time through our curriculum in about 3 or 4 months. Or, you know, that's what open mats are for. You got questions, come and pick my brain. So just before I have to put the hooks in. So just remember, darce chokes, whether I hit them from the front, from half guard, from top side control. A darce is where we go from the armpit to the neck. So for those of us that haven't formatted this, go front quarter position. I can do an anaconda. Anacondas go from the neck to the armpit. So here would be an example for the neurofos of an anaconda. My hand feeds from the neck to the armpit. I would lock, and there's different ways that I can finish this. A darce is the same thing, but in reverse. I would go from the armpit, punch through to the neck, connect, and then start to squeeze the tissue or roll. There's different ways to finish. Why do I mention that? Since we're talking back control, because this is a rear naked darce. Now I'm going to give you guys 2 ways to do this. A universal way, one we could do in gi and no gi, but it's going to require 2 things. You to have a little bit longer arms, and maybe my partner's torso has got to be a little bit smaller. In other words, if I'm behind a super heavyweight, even though I have long arms, I may not be able to get a hand on the bicep, in which case I can get a longer lever, exactly like we did last time with my hand in the sleeve. Now on this one, before I sit down and show this, at least with a rear naked choke, a short choke, the rear naked Ezekiel we just did, I was able at least to stay directly behind them. There is a good chance on this one, before I talk about the connection of the arms, just watch my body and hips. If I stay straight behind him, I may not be able to get the purchase, the grip. So there's a chance on this one, when I'm feeding this, if this hand is shooting up and under, I may need to scoot myself a little bit. See how I'm kind of at a 45-degree angle to him? So just, if you're like, coach, my arms don't fit, I may not be able to stay plated behind him. I may have to, in the process, wiggle to the side. Now, remember a darce goes from the armpit to the neck. Same concept. This is why this is a rear naked darce. Now, the first way, if we just want to put our hand in other words, universal for gi and no gi. I punch my hand through. In order to do this, watch my shoulder. I have to dip my shoulder up under the armpit and bite down. Now, if I'm in a seatbelt, this is easier to do. Michelle, move a little bit, please. I dip my shoulder under the armpit, and since my seatbelt was here, I'll just call this the lock. I throw my lock up. Now, just like a rear naked choke, I shoot my arm through and grab my bicep. My hand comes back. Now, everybody wants to squeeze here, but there's a trick to finishing this. My bottom side elbow comes back towards my hip. Everybody wants to just squeeze their elbows together and compress. This may work if I squeeze this way. This elbow, once I lock it up, needs to come back. This hand, just like before, is kind of assisting and pushing the head. So here's our 2 ways. One, the universal way where I cup my own bicep. Here, here, here. Now don't just squeeze. As I'm squeezing, my left elbow is dropping to my left hip pocket, and I choke. If my arms aren't long enough, or I can't get enough leverage, we simply adjust to the same grip we did before. So I'm in my seatbelt. I drive my shoulder under the armpit, I punch my hand through, I do the wave, come around, and again, don't let this left elbow high. Look, I can try the paper cutter from here. Life gets tough, but it's not gonna kill him. It's when I do this, combined with my elbow, there's my finish. Okay, and that is literally about 15% as hard as I can do this. If I actually go hard, they're gonna go to sleep.
Can you do 50%, coach?
Yeah, a little 50%, just for you. Elbow dip, punch, here, yes, I'm chopping this way, but my elbow, as I'm doing this, my elbow has to drop. Okay? All right, 2 more times now.
75%?
Nice and relaxed, 75, okay. So just remember, guys, if my shoulder is behind him, even though I have, like they call your eighth index, my width, my wingspan compared to my height is abnormal. I have abnormally long arms, and even if I stay plated and don't dip my shoulder, I can't get enough leverage here. So drive the shoulder, punch through, whether I grab my biceps or here. Circle. Yes, I'm doing this Ezekiel paper cutter motion, but my elbow has to drop. I'm going to start to slowly apply pressure. Okay? It's a weird one. I do have to compress more space here, but I also have a lot of leverage when I can get my hand in here. So this is just what we call the rear naked darce. Last time. Dip, punch, grip. Here or here. Fold, low. This hand needs to be almost touching the shoulder and cutting. And then my magic is with my elbow coming back to my hip. Okay? All right, guys. I've been doing this for 24 years. I've seen one other coach one time teach this. So this is what I consider a specialty submission from the back. All right, guys. Let's get it. 1, 2, 3.